Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mack Flash Five. My name is Matt. I'm with AB, and Scott is down there.
What up?
Guys, how are you doing?
Good man. How are you guys?
I'm scheming,
You're looking
plotting.
very vengeful. People to kill list. You're working on yours.
Cross them off. Cross them off.
Thank God I called that guy.
Yeah.
What's
But-
up?
But see, the guy you're playing there, for me, is usually the guy whose vengeance is a pawn.
Yeah.
There's usually somebody below him who's trying to get that guy.
Sure.
That's how
Sure.
I usually define a revenge film, which
There
is
you
what
go.
we will be talking about today.
Indeed.
AB, you picked this topic.
I did.
Why?
I mean, revenge films is a very fun. First of all, it is its own genre of film.
It's beyond deep.
It crosses genre boundaries, right? You have your thrillers, horrors, sci-fi, all that kind of stuff. But really, revenge is its own genre, and so it's always has a very fun, satisfying. Usually has a very satisfying comeuppance at the end. And so there's just a lot of revenge films that I really, really like. And, like I said, they're usually very satisfying. They have, usually a lot of things are wrap up nicely at the end. And you're like, yes, the bad guys got theirs and the good guys got theirs. And that's that.
And the audience got there as well.
Yes,
It's funny that you say about revenge films, though, because on Wikipedia, which was my friend during this, they have a sub-link, American films about revenge, and there are 600 films.
Sure.
And they have everything, and movies you wouldn't even think about. They have a lot of present-day comic book films, because you're like, oh, that's right. Like Black Panther was a straight revenge film. There's elements of revenge in pretty much everything from Shakespeare to the early films from like the modern talkie era onto now is like revenge, like you said, is like a core pillar of like society.
I mean, literally, you could classify, I'd say, a very huge percentage of horror movies could be classified as revenge films, right? So, like, there's always killers that have a reason for why they're killing all these people, right? They're like, oh, you killed my son, and Mrs. Voorhees and Friday the 13th, and so on and so forth. So, like, it's a very broad thing. So, I kind of. It went about things a little like not really guess too differently, but I guess we'll start with my number three. My number three is a movie that takes all those tropes of a revenge film and kind of turns everything on its head. And so my number three is a movie from 2013, and it is directed by Jeremy Saulnier and is Blue Ruin. It's a second feature film, and what it does is it takes what you think of in a revenge film. When you think of a revenge film, you think of your like Taken or John Wick, where you have a guy who's been wrong and he's a badass and he's going to get his comeuppance and kick a lot of ass, beat up a lot of guys, have this plan where he's going through and
sounds familiar.
Taking all these guys out. In Blue Ruin, you have this guy who's played by Macon Blair, who works with Jeremy Saulnier. They're actually childhood friends, and he's in all of his films. And he's featured in a few other films, but he's in the four Jeremy Saulnier films now, and he plays a guy named Dwight. So we meet Dwight, and this is from the very first scene. You see him, and he is basically homeless. He's living out of his car, and you could tell right away. It doesn't say that, but you could tell that he's living in his car. He's got the beard and shaggy hair, and he is basically living on the beach. And so you don't really know what his situation is, but as a lady cop comes up and taps on his window, and you're thinking, oh, here we go. The cops are gonna like tell him to move along or thing, and she says, you need to come down to the station with me. And so you're like, oh, what's he done? And so she brings him down to the station, and she said, I want I wanted you to have somebody tell you who you know cares about you and cares about the situation to tell you that this person has been released from jail. And you're like, oh, okay. And so you don't really find out. You just slowly throughout the film, and like I'm not going to give any spoilers away, really, other than this is the biggest spoiler or giveaway. I guess it's the biggest one of the things. He is seeking revenge on this person who's released from jail, and he ends up killing him in the first 20 minutes of the movie. So he gets his revenge in the first 20 minutes of the movie. The entire rest of the film is the fallout of that, and the other family members of that guy's family trying to get theirs back at him. And there's this whole other like thing that happens throughout the film. What I love about what I like about this film is that this is a revenge film that is very much set in the real world. This is a revenge film that features the protagonist, which would be someone like us that doesn't know what they're doing, makes a lot of mistakes and just kind of like flying by the seat of the pants, ends up like hurting himself, gets hurt. And like, unlike other, revenge films, like, let's say like an action revenge film, the main guy would get shot in the leg and then 2 scenes later be running top speed, right? And we're like, yeah, in this one he gets an arrow through the leg, and like there's a whole scene where like he has to remove the arrow, and you feel like every second of that, and like he has to go to the hospital, like drag himself to the hospital, and passes out, the whole big thing. I'm giving away more than I intended to. Like I said, what I really like about this is that it feels very much what it would look like in real life, like what these revenge situations would be like in real life, where it is super messy. It is, there's things that you don't think about, like you can plan these things out or whatever, but you don't really think about the full ramifications of what you're going to do and what that is going to bring down on you. It just is intense. It is intense. It's a tight 90-minute film that feels super fast because it goes really fast. It's not a slow burn, and there's some really great characters that he comes across. It actually features one of his buddies that helps him out is Buzz from Home Alone. Kevin's older brother Buzz. He actually plays the buddy that helps him out at one point. Because I was like, man, that guy looks really familiar. So I looked him up, and I was like, holy crap, that's Buzz. He hasn't been in a ton of other things, but that's obviously his claim to fame. He is Buzz from Home Alone. But highly recommend this film. I found out about this film after Green Room. Green Room was one of my most anticipated movies that I wanted to see, and so I went backwards and watched this one. Absolutely loved it, and watched Murder Party, which is his first movie, which I like. It's not as good as the other two, but Blue Ruin and Green Room, I'll die upon those hills. They are fantastic.
I've never heard of this, but Green Room is all sorts of unbelievable. So
if you like that, like honestly, like this is I highly recommend. Highly recommend Blue Ruin, just for the fact that it's a revenge film like you've never seen before. It's definitely feels so much different. So that's my number 3, Blue Ruin.
Cool,
excellent.
I
have not seen either of those movies.
I am afraid not. I know. It's so much quicker with 3 people when we haven't seen these movies. We're going to go to a movie I know we all have seen here. So I didn't know how to approach this list because, as we said at the start, there's 500,000. There's 1,000 movies right now I could rifle off. When I first was putting pen to paper, I think I had 20 movies written. And I said to these guys off camera, I was like, my list from pretty much 2 to 5 has been fluid, has moved. 2 was 5, was off the list. I had off, on, miss, things like that. This one, always stayed consistent, and I knew I wanted to talk about it. And it's not one you'd probably think is a revenge movie, or maybe you will, but it's a revenge told from the antagonist. So it's the antagonist's mission is out for his sole purpose throughout the film. Driving him is revenge against the protagonists. And I'm talking about 2012 Skyfall. And I chose that poster to reflect Javier Bardem's villain, Raul Silva, who is driven by revenge on Judi Dench's character. And the reason I picked this, because Judi Dench, she's a former MI6 agent opposite Bond in this story. Before Bond, he was M's right-hand man, who was essentially disavowed and left and turned over to the Chinese, causing him to be deformed, tortured, and he's held that with great resentment. And the main premise of the movie Skyfall is his personal vendetta against M to smoke her out and to have all the other agents turn on her for how he feels that she turned on him. And I remember we got Bonds fans. Matt and I are two of the biggest Bonds fans in this group. This is coming off Quantum of Solace, which I was one of my most depressing letdowns as far as the film as a follow to Casino Royale. This one took about, I want to say, 4 years to make, and they bring in Sam Mendes, who won an Oscar about 10 years before this for American Beauty. He's coming, he's directing this. So you're like, okay, that's great. It's getting a huge release, and as you watch, they're bringing in a little bit of the classics. They're meshing in Q and Moneypenny that any Bond fan would know, and they're bringing it into the 21st century as they did so well. So between those, and like I said, it was one. They put a lot of money behind this. The sets are massive. They get Adele, who's the biggest star in the world at the time, who does Skyfall, for my money, my favorite Bond theme. It's one of the first Bonds that got real Oscar push towards it too. There was campaigns for Best Picture and
at least 3 nominations.
Yeah. But they were trying to get. And what's nice is this was Judi Dench's send off, and she had said this was going to be her last one, and it wasn't like she just went. She had been. This is her 7th Bond film. She was she first debuted in GoldenEye, through the 4 Brosnans and then the 3 Craigs up to this point. And to say and announce it's going to be her last and her send off and tie her directly to the film is ingenious. And in doing that, it allowed for a complete film. And as I've said countless times before, what do I love in film? Homoerotic undertones, and this movie has that in spades, let alone Silva's first debut when he's talking about rats and comparing him and Bond to that is just loaded with sexual chemistry. And Javier Bardem is probably my favorite Bond girl ever for that reason alone. I love that scene. So for revenge, and for the ability to have a revenge scene from the antagonist's perspective, whether right or wrong, or whether he had a point or how the means he did it. But my number 3, I knew I wanted to talk about and show love to 2012 Skyfall.
For a slight second, when you said homoerotic undertones, I thought you said Home Alone undertones.
Yeah.
We were just talking about Home Alone off screen, and so it got stuck in my head. I thought you said Home Alone undertones, which through the climax of the film is very Home Alone undertoned.
At the very end with the Albert Finney stuff, you're absolutely.
We're gonna keep this going through the whole thing. It's just gonna be like I had Buzz in mine, and you're gonna have Home Alone stuff in the finale of Skyfall. Matt? What do you got in Home Alone in your number 3?
Oh, my number 3. I don't think it shares any.
Come on.
No, it doesn't. Let me share my number 3 was really the last thing I thought of when putting together this list. I had my top 2, and then I had my honorable mentions, and I was just searching for a number 3. And I was almost going to put Murder on the Orient Express. But I was like, that's too much of a mystery. You don't know it's a revenge movie without spoiling the ending.
Yeah, with the final scene. Yeah.
Were you put the new one or the original one?
Well, it's the same story.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, that's completely ignore that, because my number 3 is Desperado.
Very cool.
Just a classic. They've killed my girlfriend, I must have revenge type story. But it's interesting because Desperado is the sequel to El Mariachi.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen that, you don't exactly know what his goal for or his reason for revenge is, because this is where it kind of starts off. In the first movie, he comes into town. It's a in Desperado, the guitarist El Mariachi is played by Antonio Banderas. He's played by another guy. Anybody got his name? Because I forget it already.
Oh,
I can reach for it. It's right here.
I haven't seen this movie since '95. What were we just talking about? Banderas, Assassins. He did this on Assassins the same year. I had to look it up. We talked to go back to 2 weeks ago.
Carlos Gallo. It's small on there. I can't see it. Anyways, so they recast the character for Antonio Banderas. In the first one, the guitarist, El Mariachi, he comes into town, falls in love with a girl, and local gangsters in the end kill her. So this movie picks up where that movie ends. After he's because of the death of his girlfriend, he's decided he's going to kill all of the gang members and move up to the boss in order to, that's his revenge. I'm going to kill everybody and I'll, fade off into the sunset, I guess. And he does a pretty good job of it. Throughout, he comes into town. He has his sidekick played by Steve Buscemi, but the character named Buscemi as well. He sends him into town. He speaks of the legend of the guy with a guitar case full of guns. He frightens the town. So so that he can get their reaction, he can report back to them. Oh yeah, those guys work for the gang you're looking for. Go ahead. So he goes into the bar, shoots everybody up, moves on to the next one. The movie, along the way, he meets Selma Hayek, falls in love again. He discovers that she, like the rest of the town, is working for Bucho, who is the head, the gangster, who he is after. And after he learns who Bucho is, it kind of takes a turn a little bit, because we discover at the end of the movie that he's in Bucho's compound, surrounded by a bunch of guys with guns. He's up against the guy he's looking for. He's about to have his revenge, and it's revealed to the audience that this guy and our hero El Mariachi are brothers.
Yeah.
And he's like, and it becomes very much, oh, I can't kill my brother. And at the same time, Bucho is like, I mean, you can come work for me. In the end, he does get his revenge. I really like this movie. It took me a while before I saw Once Upon a Time in Mexico before I saw this. And I was sitting and I was sitting next to a buddy of mine, and in that movie they have a bunch of flashbacks, and I was like, did this happen in Desperado? Did this happen in Desperado? He's like, no. Come over and we'll watch the movie. All right, fine, whatever.
So I'm assuming that you hadn't watched El Mariachi either.
No, I watched these movies in reverse order for the first
That's
time.
funny. That's pretty funny.
Desperado is my number 3.
El Mariachi is one of the ones I saw in college. It was when I, first started watching, started watching independent films, and it was on, lists or whatever of these films you got to watch. And so I really like it. So when Desperado came out, I was like, I love El Mariachi. So let me check out this Desperado. And I was disappointed that it was Antonio Banderas playing him. But then, Antonio Banderas was humongous at the time. So it made sense. Robert Rodriguez, I'll tell you, can shoot a gun shootout scene. The guy has got style out the yin yang as filming action sequences, and Desperado is chock full of them.
Constantly rehearsing.
Yeah,
there's great DVD extras where they cast is in like street clothes and stuff, and Robert Rodriguez has like his handy cam, and he's just rehearsing the movie with a little camcorder and getting all the shots down so that when it's time to film with the expensive stuff, they have it perfect.
Yeah. You can tell because it looks fantastic. Say what you will about some of his later films, but you cannot say that the guy can't film an action sequence. That's for sure. It's fantastic. All right. My number 2 is my token horror movie. And so I decided, there's like I said, you could literally break down 70% of horror movies and call them revenge films if you want. My horror movie is like 100% a revenge film. It is all about revenge and features someone that I've been trying to work onto a list for a while now, and I didn't know how to do it. And then this came up, and I was like, okay, well, I know the movie for this, and it's my favorite movie by him. And I am talking about 1971's The Abominable Dr. Vibes, starring my guy, Vincent Price.
This rules. I don't even know. Let's go. Go off, King.
So this is a movie that used to be on Channel 20 thriller double features all the time on Saturday, and I ate it up. This movie is super weird. Like probably one of the weirder movies you'll ever see. And oh, sorry, I did say it's directed by Robert Fust. And so Vincent Price plays the titular character, Dr. Vibes, and he is a world-renowned musician. And so he plays the organ, and he is world renowned. At the beginning of the movie, he's playing his organ. He's got you can see him in the background, these like automatons that he's made, and they kind of look like I don't know if you guys have seen Frank with Michael Fassbender.
Sure.
So where was the giant head?
Giant machete, the paper mache head. Yeah, they look exactly like that. You can kind of see them in the ground, and they're playing. They're the band that's playing, and so he gets up and starts dancing, and it's super weird. You're like, what the heck is going on? And so it's set in the 20s, but it feels like a very like 60s, like Art Deco kind of feel to it, and it feels kind of like an art film. But then it's constantly switching gears and doing different things, and so it sets off right away where it sets off into the first murder, and so the murder is a doctor, a surgeon, and he is sleeping in his bed, and Dr. Vibes releases these bats, and we're led to believe that they're vampire bats. They're very obviously fruit bats, so it's kind of takes you a little better because they look really cute. These vampire things, but they're like you're supposed to be terrifying, and he's like the doctor is terrified when it happens, and so they like basically eat him alive, and so you come to find out that Dr. Vibes holds these 8 surgeons and 1 nurse responsible for his wife's death. They couldn't save her during this surgery, and he holds them responsible for her death. So he has decided that he is going to murder them one by one. And so what also has happened is he was as he was rushing in his car to the hospital to be with his wife, he was in a car accident. He was super badly burned and disfigured and presumed dead. So everyone thinks that Dr. Vibes has died when he actually obviously hasn't. And so Vincent Price like face is actually a mask that he wears. And he actually speaks with like a voice box, which, crazily enough sounds like Vincent Price, so that works out. But so like he has the whole entire time Vincent Price is like basically miming all of his lines. He's not talking because he's speaking through a mask, and like there's the big reveal, and it's kind of really a dumb reveal because his actual face is on all the posters, like his burned disfigured face is on all the posters. And so this movie is crazy. Like he starts enacting all these like murders on all these different doctors in wild and crazy ways, and you've come to find out that they are modeled after the 10 plagues of from the Bible on Egypt, except that they're not. There's like there's bats are never one of the plagues, even though they said, and there's also one of rats, and that's never part of the plague, but they're very loosely based on these things, but they're pretty ingenious and kind of like really crazy, and you get about halfway through the movie and you realize that this movie is like a black comedy, and it's meant to be funny even though it's being played straight. You're meant to like because it gets ridiculous, it gets crazy. And so there's the main doctor, the head doctor that's in charge of what all of them is played by Joseph Cotton, who's a very big actor from Britain from back in the day. He was the second in Citizen Kane.
Yep.
He plays the main head doctor who, with the help of these like bumbling cops, all this like Scotland Yard cops are all bumbling idiots. They can't figure it out. So between Joseph Cotton and these cops, they figure out, holy crap, like the connection between all these people that are dying. And they're like, oh, okay, well, we've narrowed it down. And it comes down to like this situation where all these people work together for this one thing. And it was, Dr. Five's wife. And they're like, oh, wow, maybe it's Dr. Five. So they start trying to figure out like who's the next victim and trying to stop it. And so what I like about this movie, like having rewatched it, somewhat recently, is that there are two movies that come to mind when I was watching this. I was like, that I would be shocked if the people that wrote those movies had not watched this movie. And the one of the big obvious ones is the movie Seven, because of the whole religious overtones of killing them off based on the plagues of the Bible or all that stuff, as opposed to the seven deadly sins. The other big one, and it's in the final scene, where Joseph Cotton's character, Dr. Five is saved him for last, and it's the firstborn son. So he kidnaps his firstborn son, his son, like his child, and has put a key inside of his stomach, and he has to have surgery to remove the key to release his son before this. He has 6 minutes to do it before this acid is dumped on the both of them.
Saw?
It is 100% Saw. It is 100% Saw. So I was like, I would be shocked if Lee Winnell does not like love the Abominable Doctor vibes and has seen it. And like reading up on it, there's a ton of people that love this movie. And like I said, I've always loved it. I used to play on TV all the time. Vincent Price is like off the charts amazing. Like, one of the things I love about Vincent Price is that he commands the screen. He's such an interesting actor, and even when like he's acting in this where he's not even speaking his lines, he has to emote all of his things with his eyes and his facial features as he's doing his lines here, and he just commands the screen every time he's on the. I love Vincent Price, and this is my favorite. This is my favorite Vincent Price movie. It's Abominable Dr. Fives, my number 2.
Excellent.
That's great. Thank God we don't do quizzes anymore, because no one is getting anything.
Unless the answer is Vincent Price.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Man.
When you said the movie was reminiscent of other movies, and you talked about the guy stealing his firstborn son, I thought you were about to say Batman Returns.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That's great.
Scott, you're number 2.
Bring it back. It's funny. I don't know how to segue to that. You had talked about Vincent Price commanding and tour de force, and that's very much reminiscent of my number 2. And in going to this list, I'm like, again, do I go nuanced? Do I go, something bombastic? Do I go big? What do I think of when I think of revenge films? And to me, the first one that popped in my head is quintessentially the revenge film, and it's a film about tormenting and getting again the revenge. And as I think of it, again from the antagonist's point of view, and I'm going with 1991's Cape Fear. Counselor. AB knows how much I love this film. I rewatched this again for this, and it is De Niro's like tour de force. He is in 90% of this movie. He is iconic. How he commands the screen, how you just feel grimy watching him. And then you read the commitment he had to the Max Cady character, and how he was working out 6 hours a day to get completely ripped, like the prison workout, and how he paid a dentist. He did this $5,000 to grind his teeth down, and then once filming was done, he gave the dentist $20,000 to fill them back in. He had dental work actually done. He was so committed to this. Just diving into this film, and then the behind the scenes stuff is almost as fascinating as the film itself. I'll give a little gist on the film. This is a big hit in 1991. What it is Nick Nolte plays Sam. He was a lawyer for De Niro, his Max Cady character, in defending him for a rape charge 14 years before this. And in doing so, he buried evidence because he knew that his client was guilty, but he didn't want anything to come out. So what he did was fudge some of the stuff to make sure that Max Cady, De Niro's character, went to prison. 14 years later, De Niro holds a massive grudge against him, and when he gets out, he makes it his sole purpose to relocate to the town he's in and torment the family by Nick Nolte, Jessica Lange, and their daughter Juliette Lewis. And he injects himself in their lives. He torments Nick Nolte's kind of work girlfriend, to a very tough, brutal scene to watch. It's actually Scorsese's girlfriend at the time in real life. Again, De Niro, you can't look away. He's magnetic in this film. It's incredibly violent. It's incredibly deranged. And like I said, his sole purpose is to torment Nick Nolte and break him down. And as you watch the movie has about a 2-hour and 20-minute runtime. And once you get to the third act, when they're on the boat, you're just like, oh my God. And then how it escalates from the boat on, you're just like, this is the most like vile, insane stuff I've seen. This is Scorsese, dialed up to 11, and it's the start of Scorsese's like third half, where he'd be going into, he's just coming off Goodfellas, he's doing this, and he's going to a lot of violent stuff into the later progression years that he's doing. From Temptation of Christ, I should say, on is kind of his third tier. What's fascinating about this movie too, behind the scenes, Spielberg had the rights. I don't know if you guys know that. Spielberg had the rights. This is the first R-rated film on Amblin Entertainment. And Spielberg was kind of humming and hawing, didn't really want to do it. This is a remake of a 62 film as well, too. Didn't really want to do it, so he traded it to Scorsese for the rights to do Schindler's List. But he told his buddy Marty at the time that he envisioned Harrison Ford and Robin Williams in the roles. This is the early 90s. Everyone wants Robin Williams to go dark. He would go dark about a decade later. Marty comes in. He and De Niro are best buds at the time, and obviously Nick Nolte. And then it becomes its kind of movie. So, and what's funny is Scorsese had wanted to make this movie all throughout the 80s. I think he had told Paul Schroeder that the two movies he wanted to make most were Last Temptation of Christ and Cape Fear. So it came around and he got to end up doing both of those. So again, for how dark, how twisted, how demented, and how the longevity of this film will go on forever, I choose Cape Fear. And before you get to it, speaking of its longevity, it did help inspire one of the most iconic Simpsons episodes, and that's Season 5, Episode 2, where Sideshow Bob plots his revenge against Bart, and it's pretty much shot for shot copying from Cape Fear. So for the fact that Cape Fear will live on in all sorts of infamy between the movie itself and The Simpsons, my number 2 is 1991's Cape Fear.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up the Sideshow Bob of it all, because I have not seen Cape Fear yet.
Oh, really?
Wow.
I have not seen Cape Fear.
You haven't seen
yet.
either of them? You haven't seen the original either?
No. And
oh, wow. Have you seen the original, Scott?
Bits of it. I've watched a lot of scenes on YouTube to prep for this. I didn't get around to watching the original film. I should. It seems like it holds up.
Man.
Seems pretty standard story, too. I know the endings were a little changed. I know in that one.
Well, it's 62, so it's like it's very tame compared to thing like, but it's still very chilling. Like Robert Mitchum is really good as the Max Cady role is good, and so Gregory Peck is the thing. So it's definitely like Peck versus Mitchum is fantastic. So I would definitely recommend you guys watching that. Like I said, it doesn't go to the places that Cape Fear goes, as far as like it kind of, it's 62, so they have to imply it a lot more. But it's definitely a great, two extremely great actors going head to head in that one. And, I love both of them. I definitely love both films. where Cape Fear goes, it feels like you said, it's super sleazy.
Yeah,
it's super sleazy, especially the stuff with the Juliette Lewis is
the
like,
Julia Lewis
it's
scene is
so
magnetic,
sketchy.
man.
But it's so sketchy.
So, and even reading a little bit behind, and they had worked on that together. I think Scorsese wanted like a chase scene and it to be a little more suspenseful. And then I think De Niro was like, why don't we have it play like sexual undertones in like the school, and like it can be a cat and mouse game, but it's very much, I think he even says he's the big bad wolf, and you get that big bad wolf, Little Red Riding Hood kind of thing, and she's innocent, and you're just like, oh my God. And again, just like the little bits when he's under the car and he gets out and he's covered in soot and he looks and the waitress sees him, and you're just like, oh my fucking God, this movie is dark, and it is very dark.
And it's stuff like that they replicate in the Simpsons episode that are going to like ruin it for me, because I have this tendency of watching the parody version of stuff before the actual version. And I'm waiting for the laughs to happen, and they're not coming.
They're not coming at all in this movie.
No.
That you showed the Simpsons like thing versus the thing. The theater scene in both movies is great.
Yeah,
like,
the theater
scene is in the original too.
Movies. Oh yeah. But that theater scene is parodied too. It's I know him from Nutty Professor, and it's in the second Nutty Professor, and you're like, funny. They're doing a Cape Fear reference in this. So again,
that's when you know that something is iconic, right? When it is constantly parodied.
Yeah.
You know, is that like this is something that a lot of people love and have seen, and so they have a lot of send up. So yeah, it's definitely iconic.
Yeah, and just like I'm going back to, I am veering off, but like you look at like the De Niro and Pacino debate, and I've been rewatching a lot of 70s stuff and dipping into a lot too. But you look at like De Niro, or like Pacino's coming out around late 80s with like, what do we talk about? Sea of Love and like Dick Tracy, and De Niro's doing like Awakenings and what about and Cape Fear, and you're just like, he's very clearly the greatest actor of all time. I'm very much in the De Niro camp, strictly for this role. He just had this reinvention is insane. I
don't know. De Niro doesn't have his cruising though. So
cruising rules. Okay, Matt, number 3. What do you got? Or 2?
Right. My number 2 is again another. They've killed my family, so I seek revenge film. Mad Max.
Yeah, nice, good.
The movie starts off as a cop movie.
Yeah,
we've got a gang, being a gang in a town, and the Australian police. This takes place. It was filmed in Australia. It's a completely Australian production set in the future, quasi post-apocalyptic, you might say. It's far less that than the sequels.
Yeah,
will be. But
because there's no real like gas shortage yet. They haven't really started talking about a gas shortage like the other ones do. So
there's a gang run by a guy named Toe Cutter who's wreaking havoc through a town, a small town or a city or whatever, and the police try to stop them. And they chase them down the desert roads of the Australia, wherever they are, and and stop some of the guys, take them to court, and one of the guys gets off and decides he's going to continue wreaking havoc. And Mel Gibson and his partner in the film, his name is Goose.
He's doomed.
Mel Gibson is Max, and his partner in the film is a guy named Goose.
Yeah.
The gang targets Goose and kill him. At that point, Max gets mad, but he at that point he's like he wants to get his revenge, but his wife says, "Calm down." Or the cops say, "No, you can't do it." So Max says, "Okay, I quit." And his wife says, "Calm down. Before you quit, let's go on vacation. Maybe you'll change your mind about the whole thing."
His boss sends him on vacation too.
Okay. While they're on vacation, they run into Toe Cutter's gang again. And there, the gang attack his wife, kill their kid. His wife ends up in a coma and then eventually dies. And that's what gets Max really mad. And that's when he takes, his awesome cop car, his great leather jacket, and he hits the road one at a time, taking out all of these gang members. There's one scene in the movie, when I watched it for the first time, I almost burst out laughing. After his wife and son are killed, earlier in the movie, I think his wife is joking around with this big old man rubber mask.
Yeah.
And after they die, he's sitting on the beach. Whoops. He's sitting on the beach holding this mask, thinking about them.
Yeah.
And I was like, is he going to put that on? And this is going to be part of his character now? Because is this going to be like The Crow? Because a few movies do that. They have this, special item that their loved one had and gave to the protagonist, and the protagonist uses that as the symbol of their revenge. Thankfully, that's not what happened. But when I saw that image, I was like, oh, which way is this going? Mad Max is my number 2.
That's great.
It's on every list. I'm
definitely
ashamed. I've never seen it. I'm so ashamed.
I've watched.
You've seen Fury Road.
I've seen Fury Road a few times. I actually rewatched Fury Road. I have a more appreciation. I was okay on it the first time I saw Fury Road. The hype was out beyond Thunderdome. And I had rewatched it for rewatchables and was like, oh, this movie is deserving of all its praise. And I've just never gotten around to watching these Gibson ones. I love Gibson. This is on every list. I'm so glad you got this on. I got to see it. I've only heard amazing things. It's come up a few times on a few shows already.
So fun fact, the guy who plays Toe Cutter, who is an amazing villain, who's played by Hugh Keys Byrne, is the Immortan Joe from Fury Road. He plays the same guy, so he kind of brings them back. Going back to things that have inspired Saw. Mad Max ends with a very much the same thing, where he gives him a choice, gives Johnny the boy, not Toe Cutter had already died by this point. Johnny the boy gives him an other thing: you can saw off your leg and get away, or you can die in this fire explosion.
Right. He leaves to like a trail of gasoline. He handcuffs him, or he cuffs him to the bike or something.
Yep. No, to the car. Car. Yeah.
Gives him a hacksaw and says, you can try it. You can chance it through the metal of the handcuff, or you can cut off your leg.
Yeah.
Before,
the thing explodes.
Yeah. He lights a match. It's a slow fuse. And he's like, you've got a couple minutes. And as he walks away, the explosion happens.
So we got a lot of connections going on. Another Saw connection going on with
tic-tac-toe Saw right now.
I love Matt. I mean, when compared to the other ones, it doesn't hold up as much, but on its own, it's a great film.
It does stand out because the other ones are a little bit further into the future.
Sure. Yeah.
Obvious. And, the world is almost come to an end. I saw this. It was years before I saw the second one. And then that one I recognized as the one that everyone really loves because it gets referenced in TV all the time.
And it's great. And it goes like this times like 1,000 as far as like
your favorite. How do you rank them? Is 2 your favorite?
Out of the 4?
No, out of the 3. Let's keep 4 out of it. Let's keep the Gibson one.
Yeah. 2 is definitely the best.
You go 2, 1, 3?
Yes.
Cool. Probably.
But I still love Thunder Road too. Like people bash on Thunder Road. I love Thunderdome. I still love Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. I love all of them. I love all 4 of them. I think they're all fantastic. One of the things too about Mad Max, which is a little off-putting, is that Mel Gibson's voice is
I've heard that
dubbed over. So they have someone else like doing his lines because he has a very thick Australian accent. So like it's like someone else's voice when you listen to it.
Did they do that for the American version?
Yes.
Okay, because I've only heard it with his voice.
Yeah, and so like when they first came out, when I would have first watched it, it wasn't Mel Gibson's voice. It was like somebody else's voice, and so it's really jarring when, especially if you watch it and Mel Gibson, you're waiting for Mel's voice, and it's like, well, you see there, blah, blah, and I'm like, whoa, that's weird. Anyway, but yeah, awesome. All right, we're gonna go into honorable mentions. This is my one of my most obvious ones, and it is from 1974, directed by Mike Winner, and it is Charlie Bronson in Death Wish.
For sure.
So I mean, it's one that comes up. It's iconic. Death Wish spawned a whole bunch of sequels. 5 of them. I just watched 5 for the first time a few days ago, and it's wild too. 2 is insane. 3 is insane. Like if you want to go entertaining, 2 and 3 are the best. Like they're so over the top. They're insane. 1 I really like because it's got a lot of there's a lot of politics involved. When people think of Death Wish, they think of 2 and 3, where it's just like nonstop mayhem. But that's not what Death Wish is about. Death Wish is a lot more about the politics involved and the cops, like the whole idea of the whole idea of a vigilante, and like cops like almost promoting it and be like, we don't want to stop this guy. And you have the politicians that are like, we have to stop this guy, and the cops are like, do we? And they even have the public starts saying, this guy's great, we love this guy, he's getting crime down and like that kind of stuff. So I like Death Wish because it teeters that line. There's you have your violence that all the rest of them have, but it has the moral dilemma of is it right for this vigilante to do what he does, where he's skirting the law, and where's the law line? Anyway, these are honorable mentions. My other honorable mention is from 2018. Cool. It is Mandy, starring Nick Cage. This movie is an acid trip that requires no drugs. If you want to do drugs and watch it, that makes it even wild. But this is even wild. Like, this is one of the biggest drug trips you'll take, and it's directed by Panos Cosmatos, who's the son of George Cosmatos, who directed Tombstone and that kind of stuff. It is a blast. I love Mandy. It's not for everybody. It is, like I said, it is, if you like your movies super weird and super out there and like a drug trip, Mandy, it is my favorite movie from 2018. I love Mandy. I saw it twice in the theater, and like it was only in theaters for like a week, so it tells you how much I love Mandy. Scott.
Cool, yeah, I got my number 5. I'm gonna roll with Gangs of New York. Leo DiCaprio's getting revenge on Daniel Day-Lewis. Daniel Day-Lewis roles in the scene. Some of it's a bit cheesy, some of the accents go in and out, but the powerhouse tandem of DiCaprio and Daniel Day is undeniable in this film. So I rewatched it again for this and was like, this one's got to get on for 5. And my number 4, was just thinking, been trying to get this movie on a list for a while. It's been fluctuating around. It's 2005 Sin City. A lot of revenge in this. Jessica Alba's Nancy character, Mickey Rourke's character. There's a lot of revenge in this film, and this is my first foray. One of the fun times I ever had at the theater was when I went to see this, and it just kind of blew my mind, analyzing the color palettes in this and just watching the graphic novel brought to life. And again, it's really my first foray into like noir. This is more of a neo-noir, but it definitely pays homage. The music is great. The characters, and like I said, so for that was one I really wanted on a few lists, and I knew, if you can't get it on revenge, that's all Sin City is about. So those are my 2, Gangs of New York and Sin City.
Cool.
My 2 honorable mentions are new releases, essentially. Number 5 is Without Remorse. Just came out.
As new releases you can get, a couple weeks ago.
I liked it. Yeah, it would be like 75 on my list. I liked it. My God.
I've seen this and the next movie are 2 movies that fit the categories I saw recently and did really enjoy.
Yeah,
and if everybody gets a chance, check them out because they're easy to find right now. Without Remorse is on Prime Video. It's set in the Jack Ryan universe. For anybody who's a Ryan-verse fan like I am, that's why I watched it. I enjoyed it very much.
There you go.
And my next one is Promising Young Woman.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Really good. There's on a lot of lists too.
Yeah.
That's one that's like when you Google revenge film, this is on a lot, and it should be.
Yeah, it's on the tip of everyone's tongue right now. It just won an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay for Emerald Fennell. A really good movie. Based on the trailer, people were scared. Scared. It's like, she traps these guys. What does she do with them? And that was kind of the intent. the reason to like watch this movie. It's a thriller for sure, but hilarious as well.
Mm-hmm.
When it takes the whole idea of rape revenge and kind of turns it on its head a little bit, and you know that's a big thing within revenge films, where it's a woman center, even or a man seeking revenge for his woman was that she was raped or wronged, and so this kind of takes things and takes your expectations and twists them a little bit, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
All right, number ones. My number one is about as obvious as possibly get. You guys ever had a movie to come into your life at the pinnacle time that it could possibly come into your life? When I was 17 years old, a movie happened where I had this scenario going through my head this week where a movie executive came to me at when I was 17 and said, hey, 17-year-old Andrew Bryan, we've got a movie we think you might be interested in. We're going to give you some things that you might like that have to do with this movie. Do you like comic books? Oh, yeah, I love comic books. Okay, we've got this one that's based on a comic book that's kind of like horror related. You into that? And I'm like, oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely into that. Well, in this comic book, they make references to like stuff like Joy Division and The Cure and that kind of stuff. What? Oh, really? That's what the thing is about? Oh, okay. Tell me more about this thing. Well, it's set in Detroit. I live in Windsor, which is right by Detroit. I love Detroit. Okay, cool. What else? Who's in this movie? You're like, oh, okay. Well, we got Ernie Hudson from the Ghostbusters is in this movie. Really? Okay. Who else? Tony Todd that just played Candyman a couple years ago that scared the crap out of me. Oh, I love that guy. Who else is in this movie? Oh, the main star is Bruce Lee's son. What? Okay. Okay. This is blowing my mind. Okay. Here's the kicker for you. We're going to feature a soundtrack throughout the movie that features first and foremost an original song from your favorite band, The Cure, an original song, the brand new song. It's also going to feature Rage Against the Machine, Violent Femmes, Stone Temple Pilots, and pretty much, and more importantly, a band that you're obsessed with, Nine Inch Nails, covering Joy Division. What? Where do I sign my life away to watch this movie? I am talking about 1994's The Crow, directed by Alex Proyas. If there wasn't ever a movie that was checked off all the boxes for me as a 17-year-old kid, this was it. Like, this movie was everything that I wanted in a movie and more. Here, as you can hear right now, this is the original song by The Cure called Burn. And so, like, this soundtrack was my life for a good part of like 10 years. The soundtrack introduced me to like metal bands like Helmet and Pantera. I lived and breathed this soundtrack. I lived and breathed The Cure, the Crow comic book. Wow. Okay. It obviously features Brandon Lee, R.I.P. I mean, we don't have to get into what happened to him. You can read up about what happened to him on set. There was a tragic accident on set which took his life. I won't get into that. You can read about that. And just iconic. That whole imagery is so cool. Like, I dressed when I was 17 when this movie came out. I dressed like this for Halloween. This was
so did I, but I was Steve Borden. I was Steve Borden's WCW Sting. So we both had the same costume.
Stolen by things. And so like I said, it was based on a comic book by James O'Barr, who is from Detroit and spent a lot of time in Windsor as well. And so when you start getting into the comic, there's stuff that's like all great comic book movies. There's literally scenes from the comic that are literally put onto screen, and there's like iconic shots from the movie that are literally ripped right from the page, is from the comic. The the movie kind of differs a little bit. It takes some characters out, changes kind of some of the characters around, but the gist of it is on the screen. And sadly, it's kind of a little bit like when you look at it objectively, like I won't look at it objectively. I love this movie too much to start picking it apart, but it's it's an amazing job what they did with what they had to make the film that they had, because they basically had to reshoot a lot of stuff with a stunt double to fill in a lot of the things, because they they had 6 shooting days left before it was finished, so they had to do a lot of reshoots, a lot of editing, a lot of story editing to kind of throw in a lot of flashbacks in order to do it. But for me, like I watched it again last night with the commentary, and it still holds up for me. I still love it. A lot of that is nostalgia, but it still looks fantastic. In it, Alex Proyas talks about how he did a lot of the sets with miniatures, and I love that. I love that kind of stuff. You can tell when you look at this, like the city shots as it's going with the crane shots and the whole thing of Detroit burning. And when I was growing up in the 80s, that was a big deal. When you Devil's Night in Detroit, there were fires all throughout Detroit, and it would be a thing that would be on the news. You turn on the news on Devil's Night, Detroit fires would be out of control every year, and they, at some point that just stopped for whatever reason. I know that there was a big campaign to slow it down and to stop it, but that was a big deal as a kid, that there would always be these fires on Devil's Night. And so that as a big part of the movie, not a huge part of the movie, but that is mentioned a lot during the movie. And the whole opening shot is Detroit burning. And so all these things that, again, related to me and to my life at the time, it all came together for this moment where I was like, this movie is made for me. You guys can all come to this movie and watch this movie, but this movie is made for me. And I don't know whether they decided that I'm their target audience, but I am their target audience. I love The Crow. Is definitely my number one.
This and Death Wish were like my number 3s till I put Desperado on there, because I saw this movie for the first time not too long ago.
Really?
I say that was probably 10 years ago. The first time.
Okay. I thought you meant like a couple.
Yeah,
weeks
I feel
ago.
like 10 years ago.
Okay.
But
the first time.
I really wanted to watch it because I saw a YouTube video. This was one of like the first movies that had to use CGI to fix a lot of mistakes, because Brandon Lee had passed away while filming, so they had to use the computer to move him into certain scenes. And then, like you said, they had stunt doubles or body doubles, and of course they can't use that same. He had different faces, so they would remove his face off of one scene and put it on there for another. This was right after Jurassic Park, where they kind of tampered with that a lot. Obviously they had big CG dinosaurs, but face replacement, like Jurassic Park was one of the first movies to do that, CG. This movie, one scene I love in this movie is when the Crow is walking into the room full of gangsters, right?
Yep.
And I think maybe the direction for him was come into the room and sit down, because it almost looks like an ad-lib when he walks in, throws the chair out of the way, and then hops up onto the table.
It is. I watched
the
commentary.
Cool when he
there's a ton that Brandon Lee actually did ad lib, and that was one of them where he jumps up onto the table. The other one is later, literally right after that scene where the cops show up and they're like freeze, and he kind of does that like and like dances off of screen.
Yeah,
he did that ad lib too. Like he had gotten exhausted from doing the shootout stuff, and so he kind of like did that jokingly, and Alex Proyas loved it. He was like, "That's hilarious," because like the part of the Crow in the comic and in the movie is that he is having fun. He is having fun murdering these guys, right? And getting his revenge, and he's enjoying himself. And so that is a big part of it.
And that was one of the things that kind of kept me from watching it. I was like, it just looks like such a moody type movie. And then I saw scenes where he's, funny. I was like, oh, I'm going to watch this for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's got that. It's got both. It's got a little bit of both. There's definitely some funny stuff into it, and they bring the little girl character in there. She's has a different name in the comic, but it's a little bit different. But they kind of bring her in to bring the heart. And like ground him in the world and kind of be his conscience, which I think really works with the film.
And this is one of the movies I was talking about when I talked about Mad Max, and he's holding that rubber mask.
Yeah. You brought it up. I was like, oh yeah.
And I was like, is this going to be like The Crow? Because that's kind of the same thing.
And so it spawned 3 sequels, which are all terrible. But one of the things I like about the sequels, and they're the Crow comic gets into all the sequels are based on the comics. The comics, the Crow is a character that is multiple people. The Crow always comes back and resurrects the person, and they become the Crow, right? And so there has been like a woman Crow. There was like a Holocaust victim who was a Crow who comes back and remains nameless and like exacts revenge on behalf of like the Jewish victims, right? The Jewish Holocaust things, and so there's like all these different crows.
So it's a moody Doctor Who.
Well, it was sort of where it's like but it's like it's a symbol. He's a symbol, like almost like a V for Vendetta thing, where there's V. But there's all the different people become V, right? And so like it's just a symbol, like, and so the Crow is representative of vengeance. But
your number one,
revenge.
Cool. On that note, as you were saying, so your number one, Locke, same as this. So my 2 through 5 shifted that, but as soon as my number one hit, I scribbled it down, and I knew there was nothing that was going to shake this. I segue to my number one with one quote. A man can be an artist in anything, food, whatever. It depends how good he is at. John Creasy's art is death, and he's about to paint his masterpiece. I have nothing else to say. 2004, Tony Scott's underrated masterpiece, Man on Fire. Man on Fire is an unbelievable film, no doubt one of my top 20 favorites of all time. I had seen this movie. I didn't see it in theaters at the time. I think I got it on DVD right after, just because I heard how outstanding this movie was. I was in high school. This is all anybody was talking about. Got it, watched it 5 times immediately. In it, Denzel Washington plays a former Black Ops guy, burned out. Alcoholic, strung out, doesn't want to live anymore, suicidal, goes to visit his friend, played by Christopher Walken in there. He says, hey, I got easy work for you. You can come down to Mexico. You can be a bodyguard for children, because kidnappings are an all-time high here. Doesn't want to do it, but he needs the paycheck, so he goes to do it for Rhoda Mitchell and Mark Anthony, the singer, play this wealthy family, and Dakota Fanning is the young girl. And as he's going through, doesn't really want to do it. One night, he's not committed to it, but one night he tries to kill himself. Bullet lodges, it jams, talks to Christopher Walken, kind of has a spiritual discussion about that, realizes that nothing happens by accident, and now he's going to dedicate himself to forging a relationship with this girl. Becomes a pseudo father because Mark Anthony is not around as much. They get a wonderful relationship, and it really fleshes out in this. And this movie has a really, really lengthy running time for that, and really doesn't pick up until about the halfway point when Dakota Fanning's character does get kidnapped, and Denzel, who has had this relationship built up with her, and you feel the compassion and the care, and how she's almost his redeeming spirit. Like I said at the beginning of the film, he's really strung out. He's seen some shit. And she was his salvation, and she is kidnapped. And again, if that first line's not my favorite, what conveys the absolute revenge nature of this is when Rhoda Mitchell's Lisa character, Dakota Fanning's mother, asks him, what are you going to do? And he says, what I do best, I'm going to kill them all. Anyone who is involved, anyone who profited it, anyone who turns their eyes at me, anyone who looks at me, I'm going to kill them all. And that's exactly what this movie does. So then in doing so, he becomes, it's almost a death wish situation. He goes on a rampage of vengeance using all his skills, using all 6'3" of pure Denzel machismo on screen. And what's great about this movie is it's Tony Scott's direction. And Tony Scott, one of Hollywood's all-time underrated directors. People don't hold him in high regard as his brother or anybody else, but he's constantly evolving when you look through his films. And in this, he really plays around with the color palette and really hazy fog and dirty colors. And it's got a really brown and orange tint to it, which echoes John Creasy, Denzel's character's, blurred vision, his burned outness and the haze of Mexico City. And you really feel that grit and the grime. And again, the really sped up and slowed down filming in it. And you watch, you're like, this is unbelievable. They're doing some amazing stuff in this. And as I said, the whole second half becomes like Denzel turned up to 11 on like rampage killing, and some of the ways he kills the guys and some of the scenes, he's chewing scenery and he's getting his revenge. And ultimately, when you find out and you piece the puzzle together and you find out what has happened to the daughter and the ultimate ending for it, you're just like, oh man, this movie has no right to be as good as it is. And again, that's carried off of the direction of Tony Scott and the acting of, at this time, Academy Award winner twice, Denzel Washington, coming off his lead actor for Training Day 3 years before, and Dakota Fanning, who is unbelievable in this film, one of the all-time great child performances. So for that, my number one revenge film is John Creasy's quest for vengeance and revenge to get Pita, Dakota Fanning's character, back in 2004's Man on Fire.
I did see this in theater. Definitely one of the things that struck me right off the hop of watching this movie was it had the coolest and most unique use of subtitles in a movie.
Oh yeah, that's exactly.
So up until that point, there's the regular subtitles, and sometimes they're bigger, sometimes they're smaller. The way that he interjects the subtitles into it makes it so interesting and so like readable. Yeah. I was like, man, why don't
out and goes, and it looks like a lyric music video almost.
Yeah, I'm like, why don't more people do this? This is a lot more interesting than just regular subtitles. That was one of the things that struck me right away. I was like, this is really cool. And so, yeah, I mean, Tony Scott has got style to spare as far as action films go. So yeah, it definitely works. I definitely love this. LB, my mom is. I couldn't believe it when she said she loves this movie. She loves her. She loves Denzel.
LB, love that she loves this. Love that she loves Denzel.
Loves Denzel. And so this is one of the things where I was like, "You like this movie?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh,
it's got incredible heart behind it." And like, yeah. And she watches violence from stuff with you. One last thing.
No, she doesn't.
One last thing on this movie. The one thing that has been a testament to this movie, more than any behind-the-scenes story or its longevity, it is probably, for my money, the number one misunderstood film on Rotten Tomatoes. I made sure it is a Rotten Tomatoes score of 38. What? Against an audience score of 90. It is by far the one conversation starter. Whenever we talk about reviews, I always want to work and go, well, Man on Fire has a critic's review of 38 and an audience review of 90. It's by far one of the most discrepancy wide margins of any film. I've never forgotten that. The disparity of critics to audience on Man on Fire is, again, Tony Scott is way ahead of his time. Ahead of his time with this film. Now, what do you got? Bring us home, pal.
Okay, my number one is my Tolkien James Bond movie.
Oh, there we go.
And it wasn't Skyfall. I was actually pretty surprised that Scott got Skyfall on there.
I'm so happy.
My number one is License to Kill. What do you think it was?
I thought it was GoldenEye.
Oh, GoldenEye? Is that right?
Yeah, because Alex Trevelyan comes in for his revenge. No, go on.
The difference between Skyfall and GoldenEye is that this time James Bond is on his own and out for revenge. I was so glad I found this poster. It starts off, Timothy Dalton is James Bond in his second outing as James Bond. Yep. Very underrated James Bond performance. Agreed. Because he is the proto Daniel Craig. His two movies are far darker. I mean, coming right off Roger Moore, anything else has to be darker. Violent to the extent they could do, and just a rough James Bond. Timothy Dalton is terrific. It starts off with he's at Felix Leiter's wedding, and it gets interrupted when the villain Sanchez here is spotted. Felix Leiter's been after him for a while, and he's gotten word. We know where he is. Let's go get him. And they do. They manage to capture Sanchez, and the wedding goes on. The reception is fun, and later Sanchez escapes and shows up at Felix Leiter's house, kills his brand new wife, and takes him to a warehouse to be fed to a shark.
Yeah,
the shark doesn't kill him; just he eats half of them. Essentially, takes a leg and an arm and stuff. Of course, James Bond finds this out, and he investigates. And once MI6 shows up and says, "Leave this alone. We'll let the Americans handle it," James Bond quits MI6 and goes on his own because he has to end it. He's out for revenge. He catches up to Sanchez, earns his trust. He kind of gets hired into his organization. Sanchez's master plan is to turn cocaine into gasoline so that it can be transported across borders without detection, and then turn back into gasoline on the other side. Anyways, he obviously foils the plan. James Bond wins the day again. But as far as Bond movies where James Bond is the one who's out for revenge, this might be the only one that I can think of where that's the main plot of the film.
Bond is, because a lot of villains, you're absolutely right, villains want to, but you're right.
Yeah, it's great. I saw that was one of the first ones I saw in theaters. I saw that one with my parents. I definitely vividly remembering that, and like my parents were used to the regular James Bond. So like you said, when it got dark, especially with there's that scene, and there's another scene underwater.
Underwater? Well, there's a scene where Sanchez's weapon of choice when punishing his girlfriend is like a stingray's tail.
Yeah, okay,
so
okay.
He hits her with that.
Yeah, I just remember like you being in the theater and being like looking at my parents like, should I be watching this? Like, but like, yeah, I like I'm with you. I like when Timothy Dalton gets the bad rap on this. I'm just like, I don't get it.
They absolutely
especially now. Especially
they wanted
now,
Brosnan, he couldn't get out of the deal, and they wanted Sam Neill, and Sam Neill had like theater obligations, and he was like their third or fourth choice.
They wanted Timothy Dalton to replace Sean Connery. That's how far back that goes. Sure. And so he said that first time, he's like, I'm not replacing Sean Connery. No way.
True. Yeah. Good then. But, when AB and I had a conversation about this, I always think of License to Kill. I think one time I don't know when we were at one of the trivias, maybe sports, and we were talking about best movie titles of all time. Movie titles like the old fashioned days. If you were a parent and you didn't know, and pre-internet, and you just saw in the paper and you were like, I want to see that movie. A James Bond movie called License to Kill is pretty like
it's
Mount Rushmore movie title.
It's incredible that it took them that long to use that as the title.
That's a great movie title.
James Bond License to Kill is like in Dr. No, right? He says
he has a license to kill.
Yeah. License to kill.
If you went to Blockbuster on a Friday night
all the way to the 80s,
you'd be like, this title rules, this poster rules. So
and it's one of my favorite songs, License to Kill by Gladys Knight.
There you go.
That's good. Cool, guys. That was awesome.
All right. That's our list. People
what
watching.
Are we doing?
What?
No, finish us off.
Okay. Everyone watching, thank you for watching. We want to see your list for your top 5 revenge films. Let us know. We know so many are missing. There was no John Wick.
I had John Wick everywhere on this list, and then I'm like, do I want to be that honk and put John Wick on here?
Yeah, it's super obvious. It's super obvious. Like so you're not watching this show to watch John Wick. Everyone knows John Wick. John Wick, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 John Wicks. We got it.
So all you John Wick honks, make sure you put your list on the in the comments below.
John Wick 1, 2, 3. Plus 2 other ones.
What are we doing now?
Taking 1 and 2.
Now we are going into the Mack Flash draft portion of the show.
Here?
Yep. We'll put this up. There's a draft. Here we go. Jersey Jim is in the house. He does not miss a draft. What I wonder what sport has a draft. Like, what's the lowest level sport, Jim, that you would watch a draft of?
WNBA.
Oh God, I don't know which one. I mean, maybe the CFL draft because Simpsons even made a joke about that one, right?
AB's going to bring up the randomizer.
Okay, I was going to do pick who picks, but then I'm like, oh no, we got to do
so these are our
topic
topics
first.
tonight. Today's topics we got. Oh, sorry, Bo.
Today's topics are baseball movies, 90s comedies, and movies featuring cast members from SCTV.
All right, so here we go.
He's going to give that a spin. And we all have our lists ready and in front of us. This is going to be exciting. 90s comedies.
Wow,
AB
he's
came up with
nominated
this one today.
Nice.
Wow. Baseball, I've been there for a
Okay.
month. Premium playoffs. Baseball stick. I think baseball for the start of the season.
Now, AB types in our names. I'll just remind everybody who won the last draft. It was sequel drafts, and there were 33 votes. I got 14 of those. Scott got 8. I think AB got 6. Jim got 3, pick? And Brittany got 2.
Okay, Matt gets first pick.
Oh, yes.
Okay. We obviously know what that's going to be. All right. So I picked this topic, and I put a stipulation on it. Jim with the second pick.
Yeah.
It has to be 90s comedies that are PG-13 or higher. So it's PG-13 or rated R or anything higher. It has
NC-17.
to be. Yeah. It can be if you want. So I picked third, and obviously Scott picks last.
Okay, and we're picking 5 movies.
Yep.
And so that just eliminates a lot of like the 90s family movies. Like this is basically
we just did animated,
adult,
and that would have been like 10 of those. Like we don't need to have Toy Story and Iron Giant and all those, and that we just had on animated movies.
So let's move Jim here.
Oh, yep.
And then
perfect. And then
there.
Great.
Boom.
We'll
cool. We go clockwise. That's fun.
Okay. My first pick for 90s comedies is Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. I didn't think it was like you said better first pick. There's still some good stuff there, but Dumb and Dumber I had number 1. I had number 1
number 1 with a bullet.
Yes, same with me. I saw it in the movie theater when I was 4 years old. So
that's funny. That's amazing. I don't think I did, but I think I saw Carrie's other 2 that year in the theater. But I don't think I saw Dumb and Dumber.
All right. Well, I'm gonna stick with Jim Carrey, good Canadian boy. I've got to go with my favorite, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective.
Okay,
nice,
that's excellent.
Okay. I'm gonna go with Happy Gilmore.
Oh, that was my number 3. Shoot. Mm-hmm. Okay, how are we gonna go here? Okay, I'm gonna take Groundhog Day.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Groundhog Day. I knew I wanted to get in there, and then I'm gonna follow it back up with. I got 1 or 2. I'm gonna follow it up with Tommy Boy.
That's my number 3. That was my number 3.
Good.
Okay. I am gonna go. I'm gonna go a little more niche. I'm gonna go Office Space.
That's unbelievable. I have it high, man.
I have to counter the Happy Gilmore pick with another Sandler, so Billy Madison is going to be my second.
Oh man, I got my next 2 on my list. This is fantastic. My number 2 is Clueless.
Cool.
My third pick is Clerks.
Okay, I'm glad you got Clerks.
Of course, yeah.
I gotta go for my number 3 with the late '90s comedy American Pie.
Good,
great. That was number 4.
Okay, I am gonna go with Wayne's World.
Yep, that's 6.
I am gonna slot in Mrs. Doubtfire, and oh man, this is really tough because I got 1 big one and 1 like cult classic, and I'm gonna like. Do I bank off the strength of the cult classic? I'll go with The Big Lebowski.
You
Great.
son of a gun! I didn't even say that. You don't even like the Big Lebowski.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. You're irrelevant, AB.
I don't even know what to do now. Okay, I'm gonna go even more niche. Then I'm gonna go Half Baked.
Wow.
Ooh, great. Good.
Well, yeah, I had deep, but okay.
It's probably going to be on the board, but I got to pick it because it's one of my favorites. What About Bob?
Oh, great.
Good.
Okay. And for pick number 4, my number 4 is Friday.
That was my next pick. Shoot.
And my number 5 is Beavis and Butthead Do America.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Ooh, number 5. Hard one, but
So many left.
as much as I love Analyze This, I already have a smart comedy on there, so I got to do the other animated comedy, South Park, Bigger, Longer.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Okay. I am gonna go with. It's my last one, eh? Okay. All right. I'll go. There's something about Mary.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
great.
I was gonna follow it up with like a rom-com there. Okay, apologies to The Mask, Swingers, Kingpin, movies I love.
Yeah.
But I gotta get a little bit of a woman, like a female vote, and I'm gonna go with The Wedding Singer.
Great pick.
Yeah.
So to recap, Matt, your list is Dumb and Dumber, Clueless, Clerks, Friday, and Beavis and Butthead Do America.
Yeah, it is.
Jim has
Nice.
Ace Ventura, Billy Madison, American Pie, What About Bob, and South Park.
That's good too.
AB has Happy Gilmore, Office Space, Wayne's World, Half Baked, and There's Something About Mary. And I have Groundhog Day, Tommy Boy, Mrs. Doubtfire, The Big Lebowski, and The Wedding Singer.
Wow.
That's
Murder's Row.
Off pick.
And we also have the rule.
I was like, I don't know.
We have the rule you can't vote for yourself now. So anyone
Oh, is that a rule?
hand? Yeah. Let's leave it
Okay.
at that because that kind of eliminates. So in the interest of like fun competition, we're all friends. We instilled a rule where you can't vote for yourself anymore.
That's fine by me for sure.
So I don't know. Does anyone want to tip their hand where their votes go?
I have no idea right now.
Oh,
I
yeah.
have no idea.
I got to see. Scott's going to have the graphic ready for.
I usually get it for Monday.
It would be up by now, I think, because this goes up on Tuesday.
Yeah.
But this episode is going to be up later than usual, so this draft will be like a week late. I mean, everyone go to the Mack Flash website, Facebook page, and you'll see it there.
I might have to vote Jim. Every time I see Billy Madison, I like it a little less and less, but Half Baked and Beavis and Butthead aren't doing it for me. And you have a complete 5. And I just rewatched What About Bob like a week ago. So
Cool.
can we try some more? Let's just do that. Let's just do the rest.
Next 10.
Yeah.
For the next 5.
Oh, there's at least
There's
like
so many, man.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was gonna go for your guys' thing and go basketball because I know that.
Wait, where is that? That's not on my list. It was on.
Wow,
I
that
had it on
that made your one of your Mack Flash 5 lists.
It's on it.
And one of
It's
Francois.
on yeah, for sure. It's on a
it can-
different list somewhere then for
Mhm.
something else.
It can technically qualify for the baseball movie, so
Oh, yeah.
Right.
True.
we'll save it for next time.
Top ones that are on my list but didn't get picked. Austin Powers.
Yeah.
That was huge. That was in my top 10. That was in my 8.
Yeah.
But I already had Wayne's World, so I didn't
Yeah,
want to double up
exactly.
on Mike Myers. So
For sure.
Mhm.
And one a sleeper that would probably get a lot of votes. Drop Dead Fred.
Oh.
man, that's
No.
Drop Dead fan. So many ladies love
Huge
Drop Dead
cult
Fred.
following.
Huge cult following with women. Women
Yeah.
love Drop Dead Fred.
Yeah.
So
if I didn't get Clueless, it was going to be Drop It.
So do you want to tip your hand? AB's out for the next one, so Matt comes back with the next category. What do you know what you want to do next time?
Oh, I have a special James Bond one in mind, and I guess I'll explain it here.
Okay.
Sure.
To us, and the only person watching by still is LB. So
we'll be picking pieces to make your own James Bond movie. So it's going to be 5 things. You have to pick a James Bond, a Bond girl.
Oh, this is sick.
A Bond villain.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
a
god.
gadget and a car.
So this is the reward. This is the big picture where they have the categories. Oh, I love this. I'm planting seeds, and you guys deny me for so long. But this is so we have the categories.
Like, are they from James Bond movies?
Yeah. You can find. You can pretty much find anything he ever even touches.
So what do we have? We
have
to pick a Bond, pick a Bond girl, pick a gadget, pick a song.
No, a gadget, a car.
Pick car.
Yeah. Is there like 4 different? Is there? I guess it's 4 different.
Okay. Which if we do song, what do you want to replace it from?
Get rid of
car.
car.
Instead of car. Yeah, instead of car, go song.
Pick Aston Martin.
Yeah. The Lotus submarine was awesome.
Well, that's the thing. When somebody picks it, you got. I mean, it can't be picked again.
Let's do that. I mean, it's your category. If we're just brainstorming.
No, come on. Let's go song. We all love
Bond girl, gadget, and song. That's dynamite.
Yeah, song. Because there's so many.
And villain. We have to pick a villain.
Villain. Yes, a Bond.
That's unbelievable.
A Bond girl, a villain, a gadget, and a song.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's great. That's great.
It has to be true villain. It can't be a henchman, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So was that Odd Job?
Odd Job's a henchman.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it takes away Jaws as well too.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's fantastic. So I'll slot that differently because that's kind of what they do when they draft genres on the big picture, and they have like comedy in that. So you could pick a button. You can pick Daniel Craig with your first pick, and then I might go.
Skyfall the song.
Skyfall the song, and make sure I want to get that. Or if you want to get Eva Green right off the hop, and I might save my Bond for last. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, you're taking this to a whole new level. That's unbelievable. That's awesome. I love that.
So that completes the show. Everybody watching, thank you. We're
still filming. No.
My name's Matt. Jim is here for the draft. AB and Scott, thank you for your lists. We will see everybody next time.